So what is a buy-sell agreement and when should you use it? So a buy-sell agreement is basically a prenuptial agreement for real estate, not real estate investor, for business owners. Not so it's a prenuptial agreement for business owners, and it basically lays out the circumstances by which an owner may withdraw or be withdrawn from the company. We call it in Arizona dissociation. That's the legal term we use in Arizona. But when can they withdraw or be dissociated from the company? And when they are, what does that look like? So your common events for a withdrawal or dissociation are first, just to voluntarily withdraw. Say, hey, I just don't want to be in business anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to withdraw. So that's number one. The second would be a withdrawal or a termination for cause. So a dissociation for cause, meaning that member has done something just so horrific towards the company. You know, they've embezzled, they've stolen, they breached their fiduciary duty towards the company, and as a result, they're terminated or they're dissociated for cause. The other scenario would be a situation where, and it doesn't work too well when you have owners that are 50-50, but let's say you have three owners, and two of the three owners realize we just can't be in business with the third owner. Like, we just don't work well. They didn't do anything wrong. They're not a bad person. We just, business wise, we just don't see eye to eye.
Oil and water.
Yeah. So, in that case, that would be what we call a member voted dissociation or a member voted termination or withdrawal, where the other two members basically vote and say, yeah, we can't be in business with you. So we're going to dissociate you. We're going to remove you from the company. But there's a fairly hefty buyout. And that's what the buy sell does, right? The buy sell says, okay, well, in that situation, here's how you pay for this person's membership interests, and here's how you value their interest, and here's what they're owed and when they're owed it. But you can, if you structure your buy sell correctly. Then your other scenarios are your three, D's, if you will, the big D's, the divorce. So divorce can result potentially in a withdrawal or dissociation. All of a sudden, you're in business with somebody and their spouse now, because of a divorce, comes and claims a right to the company and the right to, membership rights and the ability to vote and participate. And you're like, wait a minute, I didn't, want to do business with this spouse. So in that case, for purposes of the buy sell, you can have a provision in there saying, hey, if one of the members ends up being divorced, then we have a right as a company to basically buy out the entire membership interest, whether it's controlled or owned by the member or the member's spouse or X. Then the other D would be your disability. A member is disabled. They cannot participate in the company anymore. They are no longer able to pull their weight because of a disability. And so you can have provisions as to what that looks like. Now, disability, you can pair the buy sell with disability insurance, which provides a return or a payment to the company so that they could find a replacement for that person. If they're no longer able to pull their weight, then you can use that money to replace them, to employ somebody. And then another portion of the disability payment can go to compensate the member who's disabled. And so you can pair the dissociation provisions for disability with disability insurance and have that reference in the buy sell, and you decide in advance how to divvy up those monthly payments. And then the final thing is death. What happens when a member dies? And in that case, like disability, you can pair that with life insurance, a portion of which goes to the company to basically fill in the gap that's left behind by that deceased member. And then a portion goes to basically buy out the deceased member's estate or heirs of their interest in the company. And so that's in essence a buy sell. It's basically you have owners of a limited liability company. Generally, you could have one even for a corporation in conjunction with like a shareholder agreement. But basically, is a prenuptial agreement. You enter into it before any event comes up, and you try to anticipate the different events that could result in the separation of the owners of the business and what it looks like when that separation happens from a financial perspective. I think it's important for most businesses to have a buy sell in place, because the last thing you want is to build and develop a business that's a good going concern, only to have a dispute between the members ruin the whole thing, or only to have one member pass away and you don't have the financial resources to continue on, or for a member to be disabled, et cetera, et cetera. So it's important to, in my view, to put it in place. I recommend it anytime you're going into business with somebody else, because in essence, when you go into business with somebody, it is almost kind of like a marriage relationship, right? I mean, you're a lot of times spending more time, as much or more time with them, as your spouse even. And so it's important to have that in place, to know what it looks like for the separation of owners to happen while still hopefully able to maintain the business and the value of the business.